Okay, to do the SCDs, you need some brackets on your table. Kind of show you what we use. It's 2x4 tubing welded together. For ours, we have 3 on the table, 1 for the bottom, 1 for the middle, 1 for the top. This purpose is for using clamps underneath to hold the SCD's parts in place. Alright, here you have to remove the tape, cut along the top edge on both sides, then come back and remove the tape. You have to do this on all the pieces that you have in order for the weld not to melt the tape to your part. Alright, on the part that has the back leg on it that comes out, you only remove the tape from the inside leg. There's no need to remove the tape on the other side until installation. Alright, putting the part on the jig we have a shim that you put down in the middle, 1 on each side, and you place your bottom here's the bottom. Place the bottom on there, and it should be level here on the back side. That gives you a 1/8 gap on the bottom, so there's no gap in the face area when you're looking at it from the face side. Put all your pieces together. We use little blocks. They're just aluminum blocks to set in place. And use clamps to clamp it in place. Alright, we got the bottom, the side, the top corner clamp, and this corner clamp. You weld the bottom. If I can get in here. This bottom is going to be a little bit different than yours. Yours will be higher just in the corner for welding. For here, this is just a display. Yours will be here and then come over and come down for welding. The other part here will be for ventilation. He's welded the corner, the top, and then about a 1/16 down on the inside. If you go too far, then you'll see the weld on the inside. He welds both bottom corners, and then he goes up and welds the top. On the top, he hasn't welded it yet. This is before it's welded. It's just blank. But he will weld it across the top, 1/16 down. He'll weld across the top here, and then down about halfway on the front. Okay, after welding the 2 bottom and the left side, come over and clamp the top rail flush with the right side, and then pull tight the right side and clamp it down, and then come back and do the same welds across the top, down a 1/16 on the inside, and down halfway on the outside. You have to use a TIG welder. You can't use a MIG. Okay, after welding all 4 corners, Come back, clamp the middle down on both sides of the outside portion. We have a piece here that is the inside measurement that you need in between the bottom and the middle panel. You'll put that in. You need about a 1/2 inch here. You don't want it too far out, then the jig could be out of square. Do one side at a time. Clamp this side in with your jig. Then you can move your jig to the other side. Pull this back and then clamp this side down here. Okay, here he's welding the middle brace. The bracket's still in place here, and then he will do the other side. Moves the brace over. Putting his block in. Adjust the clamp. Clamps it in place. Then he comes back and finish welding this side on the top. This keeps the part square. Okay, after welding all the corners in the middle, depending on how many frames you have, remove your clamp, set the frame off. Weld, set up your next SCD in there. Do the same process over and over until all are welded, and then the next process will start. Okay, here we're putting in the jigs to do the clips. You'll have these jigs for put the clips in. We bend this leg here that goes on the inside just to keep it stiff. It'll have a B here, shows you the bottom, and the T up at the top. It'll have this slot here. You butt this up against the corner here. Bend each one of these tabs here down to be flush. Then you'll have the slot here. It sets on top. You clamp down each one of these jigs. This one's going to be longer than the panel on this one. These are made for an actual regular panel. This one here is just a demonstration panel, so it's short. But this shows you how to put the jigs on. Butt it flush, get it flush here. That allows you to put this clip in. We will put epoxy on the bottom side here. Put the clip in, butt it to the bottom, and then you'll put the same kind of clamp and clamp it on with the epoxy. You'll do that on both sides. After you put the clamps on, you can come back and remove this clamp that's all the way down to take the jig off. Then you can move your panel and set it down, put the next panel up here, do the same process, put this jig on, clamp it into place, epoxy the clips in, and so on. On the other side that has this out leg, you'll put epoxy here and on the back here when you put it in, and then you'll put the clamp on here, and then do the same thing on each hole. Then you can remove the jig, move the panel. So you'll have about anywhere from 8 to 10 of the clips holding these brackets down. You can do this step over and over on each one of them until all of them are glued in place. And then you'll come back and do the next step, which is putting the backer on. Okay, here we're putting the epoxy on the back of the clip. Set the clip in place. Get a clamp it in place. This one here, you epoxy the side and the bottom. Put it in place, butt it up against the side. Clamp it in place. You'll do this on each one of them. This side here with the flare only gets the epoxy on the both sides, the bottom and the side. This side here only gets the epoxy on the bottom. You'll repeat this for each of the holes. Then you'll come back and remove the clamps holding the bracket, not the clamp holding the clip. That way you can move the panel off. What we do is once we set the panel off, we'll put a foam block, like 3 foam blocks on the panel on each side. That way we can stack the next panel on top. And we do that about 6 or 7 high, and then we'll start the next stack. If you have 4 or 5 cabs of these to do, you'll have a lot of stacks of these. It's easier to do with 2 people. It's easier to, that way your tip don't dry up on you. Okay, now we're gonna finish the process. We had to move our jig to finish this sample. On yours you won't have to move the jig. And I'll run this video to show you the finishing process of putting the clips on. See, you put the clip on, put the clamp on it. This side here is the one with the flange, so it gets the glue on 2 edges. Also make sure on your clamps, if you are missing a rubber top, make sure that's on the top. That way you don't damage the face of your panel, which is on the bottom. Now we're going to remove the jig. You take off the clamps holding the jig. The jig you can take off. Remove the clamps from the other jig. That jig will come off. Now you have your frame. Your frame will have all your clamps holding all your tabs down. You'll remove the whole frame. He's getting some foam now to show you the next step. We usually set ours on the floor in his area. Okay, here's a piece of foam that we use, just a standard foam, probably 1.25 inches or so. I'm just going to show you here, sitting up on the table. Usually we'll move this frame to the floor, put the foam on top, stack the next panel on top. This gives it the thickness so your clamps won't hit each other. You're going to have, you know, about 5, 6, 7 stacked high with these clamps on. That gives it time for the glue to dry, which takes 10 to 15 minutes. He does every one of the panels this way until he's finished. Then he'll come back and start with his first stack that he began with, gluing these on to do the next step. Okay, on the center brace, usually they'll have a little hole for where the handrail goes. We're going to simulate, we epoxy a plate inside. We use 12 gauge. We'll just put epoxy on the plate, and then you use the same clamp. You do this when you're gluing the clips on, then you can set it off. Not all panels get this plate, only the ones that have the handrail where the spool goes. So depending on which frame you're making, check your print and see if you need the plate or not.
Yeah, I took another one away.
Alright, what he's done here is, after you take all your clamps off, bring it back to your table, you come back and grind the weld so it's smooth. This way, when you put the backer on there, the backer sets on these edges here. We'll put that backer on next. And now he's putting a block on the inside to clamp on the bottom, both sides. Then he'll put one here at the top on the corner. What he's doing now is measuring to make sure it's square. He's measuring from the inside leg to the other inside leg. To make sure it's square. If it's square, he'll clamp it into place. He'll double check. Alright, once it's square, then he'll grab the backer, set the backer in place. Sometimes this backer may not be the correct size. You may have to cut it down. Here's using the smaller clamps to hold the backer in place. You can see it's got about 1/8 of an inch on each side, all the way around. That gives you room to weld it. Now he's going to put the other backer in place. He'll do the same process on this one, about 1/8 of an inch. And then he'll clamp it into place. Once you have the backer clamped in place, you'll come back, weld the backer, and weld your clip. You're using a filler rod to weld the clip and the bracket at the same time. Puts 2 welds on the clip and the bracket. come around and he's welding the backer on. See, he's welded the clips, the backer, all the way around. This is on the bottom, and then on the bottom part of the top backer. And then he'll continue up, do the same process, weld the backer around, and weld the clips on. Also on the leg here that has the two inside bends on the clips, he puts a small tack on both on the other side of where he welded it. This is the side that only got glued on the bottom. That gives it a little extra strength. This side over here, you remember it's got glue on the bottom and on the side. You cannot weld here though, because you will see it. So do not weld on the one here with the flange. Only on the one with the inside flange. And he will finish welding the backer and clips in place. Now he's putting a small tack on that backside leg. He'll do the there's your plate for the handrail glued in place. Here's a clip on the other side. Remember, no welds on this side, only on the inside here. Try to get you a view of the whole thing on the table here. on average. Once you get all your pieces, get all the tape removed, you can weld all the frames together in about 4 hours probably, depending on how many cabs you got. Our welder here, he can do 5 cabs in about 5 hours, and then come back and put all the backers and stuff on. So about a day and a half he can do 5 cabs complete. If you get the same jig set up, you should be able to do the same. Alright, once you got it welded on the leg that has the little 3/8 side where you put a little tack, you'll grind any excess down, because this is where that other flange will be on. You don't want any excess on there, otherwise it will put you a gap in between your panels. This flange here, this leg that sticks out, the other panel will set on the face of this. That's why it grinds this edge down on this side of the panel. Then he comes back and grinds the edges here just a little bit, make sure there's no burrs on it. Alrighty, after you get it all welded together, this is the face. It's hard to see, but there's no gap here because of the height difference. It's 1/8. You have to check your print before you bend them. Make sure this thickness and this thickness, that this is 1/8 bigger than this one. Engineering sometimes don't make it 1/8, they only make it a 16th. If you do it a 16th, there'll be a gap right here when you put it together. See, the panel's done, welded. Next step would be to put your inserts in, remove your tape, make sure it's clean, and be ready to go. Alright, sometimes the panels are bigger than your table. So on the last frame that he has here, this tubing here that he uses for the clamp is only about 6 inches long. But he's also got this piece here he's made out of aluminum. It's a 3/4 by 2 bar, 2x2 tubing, and another 2x2 tubing. He's got them welded on the inside joint. Got them clamped to the other piece here. It gives you an extension about 1 foot. This piece here you can move on your table. That way your top of your panel is up here. As you can see, it's overhanging the table, and he's still got about 8 inches here. He can move it over if the panel has to come out here. So these may be some of the similar extensions you may have to make for longer SCD panels.